Welcome back to Wars and Conflicts of the World with HistoryGuide.com. I'm Roger, and I run HistoryGuide.com and this YouTube channel. And today we are going to be talking about the shortest wars of the 20th century. We recently did a video on the longest current wars as of 2025. Go ahead and check that out if you would. But today we're going to take a look at the shortest wars of the 20th century. And now, 20th century, of course, is 100 years long if we take the standard, century markup to determine that. And many wars were fought. A lot of them were quite long. Some of them were relatively short. We've come up with a list of, we believe, the three shortest wars. Um, and interestingly enough, they're all within my lifetime. I don't actually remember them all, but from my own personal experience. But let's talk about them. So we'll start kind of like all of David Letterman. Start with the number three, work our way to number two and number one. So these are the three shortest wars in 20th century. So the first is the Anglo. Oh, I totally blew that. Indo-Pakistani War of 1971. This is after Anglo British India ended a long time. That was in 1947. Started off a lot of wars between India and Pakistan. And basically, all those wars about Kashmir, which we talked about in our longest war video. However, this war, the Indo Pakistani War of 1971, which lasted 13 days, was not over Kashmir. It was over what we now call the nation of Bangladesh. When India first became a nation, or India and Pakistan first became nations, there's a West Pakistan and East Pakistan. What, the same country separated by the mass of India. So we are we have a situation where, ethnically speaking, East and West Pakistan are totally different. Both Muslim. That's about the only thing they had in common. So the people of what's now Bangladesh, the Bengalis, decided to have a war of independence, guerrilla warfare, all that. And in 1971, India decided, okay, we need to intervene, partly to weaken Pakistan, their old enemy, um, and partly because the fighting was spilling over refugees into India and it was becoming difficult for India. So, and the Pakistani military was, very, very doing a lot of oppressive things and creating a huge refugee crisis. So the war was from December 3rd, 1971 to December 16, 1971, 13 days. Um, India um, launched a rapid military campaign that, combined with the Bengali guerrilla support, led to Pakistan's surrender and Bangladesh's independence. Pakistan had its hands full with the Bengali insurgents already. They were not ready for full scale invasion by India into uh, East Pakistan, which is now Bangladesh. Um, Casualties, hard to say at this point. Thousands were killed on both sides. Millions were displaced largely due to the guerrilla conflict. And it was short because India used overwhelming power, and the Pakistanis who were fighting an anti-insurgent campaign, were not ready. So that is our third shortest war. Our second shortest war of the 20th century was the Six-Day War of 1967, which lasted 6 days. So this is one of the more famous wars of the many Arab-Israeli wars. Israel fought against Egypt, Syria, and Jordan, and also against Iraq, which had troops in Syria helping out, and Iraq also lost its air force. So duration of the war from June 5th to June 10th, 1967, 6 days. Israel launched preemptive airstrikes and ground offensives against Egypt, Jordan, and Syria, capturing the Sinai Peninsula from Egypt, the Golan Heights from Syria, which they still control, and the West Bank of the Jordan River, which had been under Jordanian control ever since the first Arab-Israeli War. And all three Arab nations plus the Iraqi Air Force were basically severely damaged. Casualties: Israel lost about 800 people, which for a country the size of Israel was significant. Arabs lost between 15,000 and 20,000 troops. Um, Israel launched a preemptive attack. superior technology, superior training, superior motivation, um, and in short order, they were victorious. And we're still dealing with the fallout of that conflict in terms of Israeli occupation of various territories. But Egypt and Jordan have made peace with Israel since then. Syria is on the cusp with their new government following the Syrian civil war. So our shortest war on our list involves the United States. This was the 1983 invasion of Grenada, small Caribbean island. There was instability in Grenada following a coup. Long story short, communists overthrew other communists, creating chaos, bloodshed, etc. There were American um, students, medical medical school students on the island, and President Reagan used that as an excuse to send in the Marines, literally. Fighting was from October 25th to the 28th, 1983. Major combat ended within just a couple days. There was a few minor clashes afterwards. The U.S. and some Caribbean coalition allies overwhelmed the Grenadian forces and Cuban army, which is there, uh, supporting the old Grenada government. So this is actually the first and really only official armed clash between not U.S. troops and communist Cuban forces throughout the entire Cold War. This is part of the Cold War, of course, by the way. We're talking about communist government versus the United States. So, U.S. took over the island pretty quickly, which is what one would expect. 19 U.S. dead, 45 Grenadian deaths, 24 Cuban deaths, about between 300 and 400 wounded on all sides. U.S. military superiority and firepower, and decent. Well, actually, the planning wasn't that great. There were some goofs, and if you want to get an idea of what it was like, watch the Clint Eastwood movie Heartbreak Ridge, which is named for a Korean War battle, but it's not about Korea. So there we have it, folks. The three shortest wars of the 20th century. Um, I could go on and on about each of these, but this is designed to be a relatively short video. So if you like this, please hit the like button, subscribe, share it with people, leave comments. Let me know what you think. And if you want me to expand on any of these conflicts in a longer video, let me know. Again, this is Roger with War and Conflicts of the World by HistoryGuy.com. Thank you very much.